Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of The Message. I'm your host, Donatus King. We'll spend this next hour with one purpose in mind, and that one purpose is delivering the message that God is Almighty. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be is a piece of God. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be was made by God. Everything that ever happened, is happening right now, or ever will happen, was made to happen by God. God is a master plan for all time and all creation. God is Almighty. The message is brought to you by, is produced by the Society of Knowledge Incorporated. The Society is an interdenominational, religious, spiritual ministry. Our members come from various different religious and spiritual backgrounds. We have various different religious and spiritual beliefs. Although we come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs, there's one belief that we share. There's one piece of knowledge that we hold in common, and that's the knowledge that there is a being. By no matter what name we may have been taught to call that being, by no matter what name we may have come to know that being, whether that name be God, Allah, Yahweh, Jesus, Jehovah, Buddha, nature, by no matter what name, we know that there is a being that possesses not some of the power, not most of the power, but all of the power. We know that there is indeed an almighty being. That's the reason we do this show, and the only reason we do this show, to deliver the message that that being that personally I call God, that being is indeed almighty. Today is March the 5th. I remind that fact because tonight, as we are on most nights, we are live. And I remind that fact because this show is an open discussion, it's a two-way conversation. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, I invite you to join the conversation by posting your comments on Facebook, and I'll do my best to read them out over the air. Those of you that are watching by television, I invite you to join the conversation by calling the telephone number that's on your screen, and that number is 504-483-3336. Join the discussion. Call in. If there's something that's going on in your church, your mosque, your synagogue, your masjid, your temple, your place of worship, and you want to let the world know about it, post your comments on Facebook or call in and let the world know about it. If there's something that's going on in your nonprofit organization and you want to let the world know about it, post your comments on Facebook or call in and let the world know about it. More important than what's going on in your place of worship, more important than what's going on in your nonprofit organization, if there's something that God has done for you in your life, a miracle that God has worked in your life, and I use that word literally, a miracle, because the God that I'm here to tell you about is working miracles. That's right, here today, March the 5th, 2020, God is working miracles. So if God has worked a miracle in your life, post your testimony on Facebook. Call in and share your testimony. You know, it may be someone that's in need of a miracle right now. Someone might be going through some health problems. And yes, with all the concern across the world now with this coronavirus, someone might be going through some health problems right now. And they need to know that no matter that medicine hasn't helped them, no matter that surgery hasn't helped them, let them know that God can help them, that God can heal their body because God did the same thing for you. So call in, share your testimony about God is working miracles today. Post your testimony on Facebook about how God is working miracles today. I said a minute ago that today is March the 5th, 2020. And yes, the year is just rolling by. We have a full show. The order of our show tonight, we'll have our announcements. And after our announcements, and let me make sure that I'm catching up here on our screen for our Facebook viewers. Okay, let me just make sure that, all right, there's the date for our Facebook viewers. We'll have our announcements, then our testimonies. Then after our testimonies, we'll have our religious spiritual study, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, coming out of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. And I remind you that are watching by Facebook to please hit the share button, hit that like button, invite your friends to watch the show. Tonight we will be discussing Lent. For those of you that are Christians, particularly those of you that are Roman Catholics, you know that we're in the Lent season. So we're going to talk about that extensively tonight. What is Lent? Our words of inspiration tonight will come out of the book of Exodus, starting in chapter 9, and we'll get to chapter 9, verse 17 through 35. Brother Link, thank you for joining us on Facebook. There's our announcements. That's our main website. That's www.godisalmighty.org. I invite you to lock that into your web browser, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can go to that website, and there are links to all of our social media outlets. We have a blog, we have a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Lock that into your web browser, and as I say, 24 hours a day, you can go to that website. Rock of Ages Ministries International, Apostle Ronnie Bailey. That's their website that you see, www.ronniebailey.com. That ministry is doing some great work, not only in the greater Lafayette area, but also in the New Orleans area and internationally. So check them out, visit their website, and see what they have posted. The New Orleans Peacekeepers, that phone number for those of you that live in the New Orleans area, that's 504-500-1706. If you know of someone that's having a beef, having a dispute out in the community, give Peacekeepers a call, and they'll come out and try to help resolve that dispute without any violence. In the New Orleans area, you call 311 between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. for free smoke detectors. We have another little snap of cold weather that's coming through today. It might be here over the weekend, so some of you might be firing up those space heaters. Make sure that you have a smoke detector that's working. And for those of you that already have smoke detectors in your home, please check the batteries. Make sure that the batteries are good. Also, please check your vehicle's back seats for babies. It's so easy to leave a child in the back seat of a vehicle, and then they have that child suffer a terrible tragedy because they were forgotten and left in the back seat of the vehicle. The 2020 census is hiring. Those of you that might know someone that's looking for a job, tell them about the census. Those jobs, from my understanding, they pay from $15 on up. The hours are excellent, and they're flexible. They're temporary jobs. But if anyone's interested, that's the website that's on the screen. That's 2020census.gov/jobs. Or you can give them a call at 1-855-562-2020. 1-855-562-2020. Caregiver support line. Are you taking care of an elderly or infirm relative or friend? Would you like to have someone to talk to about what you are going through as a caregiver? Then call the caregiver support line, and that number is 504-957-5516. Brother Edward Reed Roberts, a licensed clinical social worker, is a facilitator of the support line. So give them a call. Again, that's 504-957-5516. The Message, Tuesday, 6 p.m., delivered by Messenger Ryan King and Messenger Corey Olivier on Facebook Live at The Messenger. In that edition of The Messenger, it is produced by the Lafayette, Louisiana Center of the Society of Knowledge, Inc. For those of you that might be unaware, the society has a broadcast here out of the New Orleans Center, but we also have a center located in Lafayette, and we have a center that's located in North Carolina, in Chapel Hill. So tune in to them coming out of Lafayette, and I want to commend Messenger Corey Olivier for this past Tuesday, not this Tuesday that just passed, but for the Tuesday before that, which was Mardi Gras, and just goes to show you the dedication. Messenger Corey actually did deliver the Messenger broadcast on Carnival Day, on Mardi Gras Day. So, just go to show you how the Spirit worked with Brother Olivier to help him deliver that message. All right. Religious spiritual study. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Coming out of First Book Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. And I just want to make sure that we have all of our equipment functioning properly here. And I was getting a signal that we were having a little difficulty with our power. But hopefully we have all that straightened out. All right, as I say, hopefully we have everything straight and in line. So we're gonna just rely on the Spirit and let the Spirit take us where we're supposed to be. All right, we're talking about Lent. All right, Lent, for those of you that are aware, the word Lent itself is derived from the Anglo-Saxon words Lenten, meaning spring, and Lententide, which literally means not only springtide, but also the word for March, the month in which the majority of Lent falls. And as you see on your screen, that word, L-E-N-C-T-E-N, Lenten. Okay. Since the earliest times of the church, there is evidence of some kind of Lenten preparation for Easter. For instance, St. Irenaeus, and that's St. Irenaeus that you see on your screen right now, he died in 203, wrote to Pope St. Victor I, commenting on the celebration of Easter and the differences between practices in the East and the West. The dispute is not only about the day, but also about the actual character of the fast. Some think that they ought to fast for 1 day, some for 2, others for still more. Some make their day last 40 hours on end. Such variation in the observance did not originate in our own day, but very much earlier in the time of our forefathers. So we hear going back in the 3rd century, in 203, that there were some disputes about this celebration of Lent, and there was some disagreement as to whether or not it would last and how long it would last. Brother Tainab, Messenger Tainab, thank you for joining us on Facebook. And indeed, I mentioned earlier about our Chapel Hill Center, and that's Messenger Tainab out there delivering that message in Chapel Hill, that indeed God is Almighty. For those of you that may have tuned in on Facebook a little bit earlier, and I didn't acknowledge you, is because I'm just trying to get everything together and just now seeing those folks that are watching by Facebook. But let's move on with the show because we have quite a bit. Lent became more regularized after the legalization of Christianity in A.D. 313. The Council of Nicaea in 325, in its disciplinary canons, noted that 2 provincial synods should be held each year, one before the 40 days of Lent. So we see and throughout our studies, we've read a lot about that Council of Nicaea. And, do some research on that. There's a whole lot of stuff that went on at that council that helped shape Christianity as we know it today. Not only the Roman Catholic Church, but Christianity itself in general. Christianity was shaped in great part by that Council of Nicaea. One can safely conclude that by the end of the 4th century, the 40-day period of Easter preparation known as Lent existed, and that prayer and fasting constituted its primary spiritual exercises. Of course, the number 40 has always had special spiritual significance regarding preparation. Brother LaFollette, thank you for joining us. Sister Candace, thank you for joining us on Facebook. On Mount Sinai, preparing to receive the 10 Commandments, Moses stayed there with the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights without eating any food or drinking any water. And you'll see that reference in the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 28. Elijah walked 40 days and 40 nights to the mountain of the Lord, Mount Horeb, another name for Sinai, and you'll find that reference in the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verse 8. Most importantly, Jesus fasted and prayed for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert before he began his public ministry. And you'll see reference to that in Matthew chapter 4, verse 2. All right, Messenger Tainab is great. And all right, Brother Lafayette and Sister Joanne, welcome. Welcome to the message. All right, and there's some things that are associated with Lent. Once the 40 days of Lent were established, the next development concerned how much fasting was to be done. In Jerusalem, for instance, people fasted for 40 days, Monday through Friday, but not on Saturday or Sunday, thereby making Lent last for 8 weeks. In Rome and in the West, people fasted for 6 weeks, Monday through Saturday, thereby making Lent last for 6 weeks. Eventually, the practice prevailed of fasting for 6 days a week over the course of 6 weeks, and Ash Wednesday was instituted to bring the number of fast days before Easter to 40. The rules of fasting varied. First, some areas of the church abstained from all forms of meat and animal products, while others made exceptions for food like fish. So now that kind of brings the question, so if you can pick and choose on what you want to fast and how you're going to fast, and this church says you fast this way, that church says you fast that way, is it a rule? And if it's a rule, how come it changes for different people, different churches? That's just a little something, as Mr. Tainab said, great food for thought. There it is, great food for thought. All right, and as you see, over the years, modifications have been made to the Lenten observances, making our practices not only simple, but also easy. Ash Wednesday still marks the beginning of Lent, which lasts for 40 days, not including Sundays. The first day of Lent is called Ash Wednesday. On Ash Wednesday, priests gather ashes from the previous Palm Sunday and rub them on the congregants' foreheads. And as you see on your screen now, this young lady has a cross being made on her head with ashes. And some of you may have seen last week, it said Ash Wednesday is the day after Mardi Gras. So a lot of you in the New Orleans area saw people on Wednesday walking around with a cross on their head. And that's where the cross came from. They went to a priest who made this cross on their head. And nowadays, it's not only the priest, but something here newly that's come up in the past few years. People are not going to church. They're going through a drive-through. They have folks standing out in the parking lot, not actual priests, but people that have been appointed by priests to stand in the parking lot, and people sit in their car and just drive through, and they put the ashes on their forehead. And so, things are changing. Things are changing. And while they are doing this, putting the cross on the folks' heads, they're citing Genesis 3:19, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. All right? And we move on. The present fasting, and absent laws are very simple on Ash Wednesday, and what you see on the screen right now. Okay, well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we're going to leave that up on the screen. The present fasting and absent laws are very simple. On Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, the faithful fast, having only one full meal a day and smaller snacks to keep up one's strength, and abstain from meat. On the other Fridays of Lent, the faithful abstain from meat. People are still encouraged to give up something for Lent as a sacrifice. An interesting note is that technically, on Sundays and solemnities, like St. Joseph's Day, March 19th, and the Annunciation, March 25th, one is exempt and can partake of whatever has been offered up for Lent. Now, at one time, they used to say that if you didn't follow the rules of Lent, that was a sin. And if you died and you hadn't confessed your sin, you go to hell. So if you ate some meat on a Friday and you didn't make it to confession before you died, you go to hell. Or maybe you just go to purgatory, kind of like a halfway house through hell. So things kind of changed a little bit here. So this year, 2020, Lent begins on Wednesday, February 26, 2020. The official end of Lent. Now, this is something when I was doing this research for tonight's show. This is something that I didn't know about. I learned something. The official end of Lent. I always thought the official end of Lent was on Easter, but nope, I was wrong. The official end of Lent is on Thursday, April 9th, 3 days before Easter Sunday. However, there's an entire list of events leading up to the finale that's called Holy Week. Now, Messenger Tainab, did you know that Lent officially ended on the Thursday before Easter? If you did, then you know more than me, because I didn't know that. Okay, I think that maybe some of our other viewers didn't know that. Yeah, so you learn something every day. All right, after Holy Week, okay, so that's what you see on your screen right now. Holy Week begins with Palm Sunday. This marks Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem, where he received palm branches at his feet. During Palm Sunday services, churchgoers are given palm crosses that are supposed to be kept until the next year. And what you see depicted on the screen right now is Jesus arriving in Jerusalem. We're going to talk about that in the upcoming weeks. We're going to start our discussion. All right, Brother LaFollette, yes, if you get in touch with Messenger Tainab out there in Chapel Hill, he can give you some information on how to join the society. And you can also just give me a call or post me on Facebook, and I can also help you get that information. Brother Leon, thank you for joining us on Facebook. Brother Leon, you down here in the New Orleans area, surrounded by a lot of folks that are celebrating or observing rather Lent. All right, after Palm Sunday, now this is some more interesting stuff. After Palm Sunday comes Holy Wednesday, which acknowledges Judas Iscariot's plan to deceive Jesus. So we have Palm Sunday, then Holy Wednesday, and as you see on the screen right now, that depiction that's on the screen right now, that's a depiction of Judas, and Judas is identifying Jesus so that the soldiers could come and arrest him. So I never knew that Wednesday after Palm Sunday was significant and it marked Judas's betrayal of Jesus. Okay? Now this is another piece right here, and this other piece that you see on your screen right now, that piece is, so we have Holy Wednesday, and that's followed by Maundy, M-A-U-N-D-Y, Maundy Thursday. So quite naturally, Thursday comes after Wednesday, but I didn't know it had a name. It's called Maundy Thursday, and commemorates Jesus' Last Supper. Okay? And you see on your screen now, that's a depiction of the Last Supper. And one of the things that you see depicted there, that this is a depiction showing Jesus and his disciples as being black, which is closer to the color of those folks in that area of the world at that time. But this is the Last Supper, and I never knew that the Last Supper, somehow the other folks had figured out that the Last Supper was on a Thursday. I don't know how they figured that out, but it is, according to this research, it's on a Thursday. Brother Jody and Danny, welcome to the message. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully, there's some information that you're getting out of this about Lent. All right, but now we have, and look what it says. It says that, and most of this information that I'm getting now has come off of Wikipedia, but there's all the references, other resources online on the internet that I've checked to corroborate this. So if you have some different information, post it on Facebook. Let me know so I can make sure I make that correction. As Thessalonians say, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. But again, this Thursday, the Thursday before Easter. See, when I was a little boy, they always taught me that Lent didn't end until Easter. So Easter was the day you can do all the stuff that you wasn't doing during Lent. So I was cheated out of 2 days, right? If it ends on Thursday, so I could have been eating my candy on Friday and Saturday, but no, they cheated me out of that. I'm getting kind of upset now. All right, getting kind of upset. And I apologize, Sister Jody. I apologize. I didn't recognize, but I apologize for that. Sister Jody, thank you for watching us, joining us on Facebook. And Sister Jody, I'm still upset that I couldn't eat my candy on that Friday and Saturday, even though Lent officially ended on that Thursday. Maybe my mom was just trying to save a little money. Cut me out of 2 days of candy. I didn't know the difference. All right. The final, next is Good Friday, when Christians recall the crucifixion of their Savior. The final day of Holy Week is Easter, when believers acknowledge that Jesus rose from his tomb. Okay, now we've discussed and talked about Lent, but guess what? They got some stuff when I was doing some research. They got some stuff in here that some scholars actually suggest that Lent originated as a pagan feast. And what you see on the screen now is the god Tammuz. In one version of the Babylonian myth, and see now when you're talking about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they call them religions, but now they talk about the Babylonians and they call it a myth. That just go to show you got to watch how folks write words and all the rest of that. But in one version of the Babylonian myth, Tammuz, the great hunter, was slain while hunting a wild boar. Devotees mourned for him through weeping ceremonies for 40 days. See, we got that number 40 again. Okay, 40 days. All right. During the days of Ezekiel, this ritual was even found among the Israelites. Okay, now wait, something. It's not surprising that some of the stuff that the Babylonians did, it's not surprising that some of the things the Babylonians did was copied by the Hebrews. And it's not surprising because when you look at Babylon, which is in modern day what they call Iraq, but Babylon is the location of Ur, Ur of the Chaldees. And Ur, when you read your Bible, it tells us that Abraham, that's right, Abraham, one of the founders of Judaism, one of the founders of the Hebrew people, it says Abraham, him and his family used to live in Babylon. And then he moved out of Babylon when he started this new religion of Judaism. So it's not surprising that some of the stuff in Judaism would be very similar, if not indeed copied from things that occurred in Babylon. And Christianity, we know that Christianity is an offspring of Judaism. So it's not hard to see how something that we find in Christianity could have actually originated in the religion of the Babylonians. And here we see Ezekiel, and coming out of Ezekiel, Ezekiel writes, "He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz." And that's coming out of the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, verses 13 to 14. But look, like they say on TV, but wait, there's more. All right? Worshippers of Tammuz wept with his consort Ishtar, believing that his rebirth would mean the regeneration of life within nature. Similar feasts are found throughout pagan peoples of antiquity. See, they put that label pagan, okay? Pagan and myth, things like that, kind of denigrating, downrating these folks, you know. But that sounds kind of familiar. It says Tammuz wept with his consort Ishtar, and that word Ishtar, let's see, do we have a photo of Ishtar? Actually, we just did. That was Ishtar that was on the screen just now. Let's see if I can back up a little bit here. All right, looks like my fingers are getting a little bit too fat. All right, let's see. Okay, Ishtar, that you're right, brother Messenger Tina. All right, now we have Ishtar back on the screen now. That Ishtar, and if you do a little research, Ishtar, there are suggestions and there's evidence that Ishtar is the actual god Oestri, the same name as Easter. Okay? And remember something that's important is that the Babylonians, with their god of Ishtar / Easter, that predated, that came before, way before Christianity. And we see the similarity also with this. It says regeneration of Tammuz. Well, another word for regeneration is a rebirth. Another word is resurrection. So it's a whole lot of similarities between the teachings of the Babylonians and their religion and the religion that we have that's come to be known as Christianity. And again, as the research, Brother Tony, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. As the research says that similar feasts are found throughout pagan peoples. See it again, that word pagan peoples of antiquity. For instance, the ancient Egyptians observed a 40-day fast in honor of Osiris. And that's what we see a depiction on the screen now of Osiris. Right? So now we see that the Babylonians, we see the Egyptians, then we saw the Christians, and this 40-day sequence, we find that all throughout the Old Testament. And when you search the scriptures diligently, from the Old Testament to the New, you will find no mention of Jews or Christians observing an annual period of 40 days of fasting and abstinence preceding the festival of the Passover. Yet today, most of the Christian world observe a 40-day period called Lent, which precedes the festival of Easter Sunday. A period of 40 days is rather common in Scripture. However, it rained 40 days and nights. Look in Genesis chapter 7, verse 4 and verse 12. 40 days after sighting the tops of the mountains, Noah set forth a raven and a dove. That's out of the book of Genesis, chapter 8, verses 6 to 7. Is there something special about that 40, that number 40? Joseph mourned the death of his father Jacob for a period of 40 days. Coming out of the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verses 33. Moses was on Sinai for 40 days. Look at Exodus, chapter 24, verses 18, chapter 34, verse 28, Deuteronomy, chapter 9, verses 9 through 11. Moses pleads for Israel 40 days on Sinai. Canaan was spied on for 40 days. Look in Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 25. Goliath taunted Israel for 40 days. Look at 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 16. Elijah fasted and journeyed to Horeb for 40 days. That's in the first book of Kings. Ezekiel bore the iniquity of Judah for 40 days. That's coming out of the book of Ezekiel, chapter 4, verse 6. Jonah word Nineveh of judgment in 40 days. Coming out of the book of Jonah, chapter 3, verse 4. Jesus fasted in the wilderness for 40 days. Coming out of the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verse 2. Mark, chapter 1, verse 13. Luke, verse 4 and 2. Sister Jody, doesn't Ishtar hold a... But you see, we have some folks on Facebook that have been doing some research. Sister Jody, she asked the question, doesn't Ishtar hold a rabbit and an egg in some depictions? Yes, you are right. And as we go through, next week we're going to start a 4-week series talking about Easter and the different customs associated with Easter. And one of the things that we'll talk about is this: where does this rabbit come from in these Easter eggs? The custom of rabbits and eggs, how did that become associated with Easter? And yes, Sister Jody, you are correct. My research has shown the same thing, that Ishtar is associated with rabbits and eggs. And the overall theme of that, rabbits and eggs, is fertility. Okay, fertility. All right, fertility. And when you look at this time of the year, the springtime of the year, fertility. So it's a lot that we're going to study about as far as some of this ancient knowledge. But again, getting back, Jesus was seen for 40 days after his crucifixion, coming out of the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 13. And that, let's see. All right. That as far as our study tonight about Lent and the season of Lent, I'm hoping that we share some information. I appreciate, I'm thankful for all of our Facebook viewers that tuned in and shared your knowledge, your opinions, your information. And, again, I'm encouraging you to tune in next week. We're going to pick up on that 4-week, we're going to start that 4-week series about Easter and the development of Easter and some of the symbolism in Easter. And we'll be actually reading some scriptures relating to Easter and the different events that led to Easter. Messenger Tainab, all right. Yeah, Messenger Tainab, thank you for joining us. And we're going to get, let's see, we do have, we actually have quite a few minutes left in the show tonight. And so we'll be able to get to some of those scriptures. And just a reminder, we read on this show, we read a lot out of the Bible, the Christian Bible. And the reason that we do that is because it's a book that a lot of our viewers have in their homes. So they're able to read along the words, word for word, as I read them and we discuss them here on the screen. And as you see, when I read through the Bible, and throughout the years, we'll read through the Bible, the Quran, different other works, different other works from different other religions, different other periods of time. We'll read through those for words of inspiration. And the greatest inspiration that I find in all those different texts, religious texts, the greatest inspiration that I find are words acknowledging that there is an almighty being. So that's the reason that we read through them, not to convince anybody of any particular religion or convert anybody to any particular religion. But the purpose that we do that, the reason we do that, is the same purpose as we do for everything on this show. And that's one purpose, and that's delivering the message that there is an almighty being, that being that personally I call God, that there is an almighty being. So we're going to get into our words of inspiration. They will be coming out of the book of Exodus, chapter 9, starting with verse 17. And it's been a while since we've been here, so it might take us a minute just to remember where we've been with our reading through those scriptures. All right. This is Exodus chapter 9, verse 17. As yet exaltest thou thyself against my people, that thou wilt not let them go. Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as had not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. All right, so now just to recap, what's happening now is that God is talking to Pharaoh. And see, when I say God, understand, for those of you that this might be your first time watching the show, when I say God, I'm not talking about some fellow with a long white beard that sits up on a cloud. Okay, that's not who or what I'm talking about. When I say God, I'm speaking about the one, okay, the all in all, that of which we are all a part. Okay, I'm a part of God. You're a part of God. This ink pen is a part of God. Everything that ever was, is now, ever will be, is a part of God. There is no God over here and me over there. There is no God over here and you over there. Everything that is a part of one being. One being. And that being, that personally I call that one being God. So when I say that God is talking to Pharaoh, I'm saying that God is speaking to a piece of itself. So this grand show, this grand undertaking, where you have all of the characters are all connected, where you have all of the plot lines are already written out. And we have God speaking to Pharaoh now, letting Pharaoh know that, look, it's part of my plan to deliver the message to the Egyptians and the surrounding nations that I have power. And I'm going to deliver that message that I have power. I'm going to deliver that message by, first of all, telling Moses to come tell you to let his people go. And then I'm going to harden your heart so that you don't listen to Moses. And then that will be a reason for me to whip all these plagues on you. Now, it sounds kind of sadistic. God could have just softened Pharaoh's heart, but that wasn't God's plan. See, if God had softened Pharaoh's heart, then God would not have had a reason to do all those plagues. And if God had not done all those plagues and opened up the Red Sea and did all this wondrous stuff, we wouldn't be talking about it today. All right. So this is what we read. See, God is saying, what? Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as had not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send therefore now and gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field, for upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die. He that feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. Sister Lauren, thank you for joining us on Facebook. You see, now look, it says that God gave him a warning. And he that feared the word of the Lord. Now see, this is interesting, because in this verse it's saying, he that feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. So that's letting me know, I'm getting some understanding. See, I'm reading this stuff and getting some understanding as I read it. It's letting me know that even some of Pharaoh's servants have gotten to the point where they're starting to believe. Not all of them, but some of them are believing. Because remember, What we're reading about now, this isn't the first thing that's happened. God had already whipped some stuff on the Egyptians. Already some other plagues before this one right here. So now he's making some believers out of the Egyptians, or some of the Egyptians. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and his cattle in the field. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. Okay, now I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop there and just talk about that a minute. Okay? You know, sometimes things are happening in the world and we look at it and we say, man, there's some terrible stuff that's happening, you know. And we get to questioning. We get to saying stuff like, well, hold on now. If God is real and God is almighty, then why is all this terrible stuff happening? Okay? Just get some understanding. Okay? Just get a little bit of understanding. Okay? Like what we're reading about tonight. About this hail is going to come down. And it's going to hit every man and every beast. Now just come on now. Let's be real about this. There may have been some little children. And it probably was. There's some little bitty children out there playing. Some little Egyptian children. They don't know no better. They're just doing what they do every day. They're outside playing. And then all of a sudden this hail comes down and kills them. That don't sound right. That does not sound right at all. That sounds mean. How God gonna kill them little children? Truthfully, come on, let's be real about this. How God gonna kill them little children? If this is true, if what the Bible is saying is true, if that's true, then surely some of the little innocent little children got killed. Not only innocent little children, but if it's true what the Bible is saying, then there was probably some adults that was working that had to go to work to make a living to support their family. And the boss said, look, I don't care what Moses said, you go out there and work in that field today. I ain't worried about no kind of hell. And them rascals went to work just trying to support their family. And now they got hit in the head with some hail and killed. That don't sound right to me. Why God would do something like that? But hold on now, look. See, we're reading this stuff that happened. We're reading this stuff that happened thousands of years ago. And we're kind of detached from that. Don't really have to focus on that. Okay, this is thousands of years ago. Who knows if it happened or if it didn't happen? Thousands of years ago. But let's make it even more real. Okay? Let's make it even more real today. Yeah, I'm going to go there. Today, March 5th, 2020. Yeah, some of y'all know where I'm going. March 5th, 2020. There's something that's happening around the world. Yeah, y'all know exactly where I'm going now. And that's something that's happening. It's called the coronavirus. Listen to what I'm saying now. The coronavirus. And maybe you have not just sat down and really focused on this. But around the world, I'm talking about Italy, that's in Europe, China, and now North America. You got folks that's coming down with this coronavirus. There's folks that's dying from this coronavirus. Now understand something now. Look where we are. We are right at the very beginning of it. You see, because when I sit down and I read the paper or I look at the news on television, it's telling me that, well, hold on. Thousands of people around the world that's already has this coronavirus. People dying all around the world because they have the coronavirus. But you might have the coronavirus, but think you just got a cold, or think you just might have the flu. Nothing serious. You really don't know. Can't really tell the difference. Right? Then the next thing that I read, the next thing that I see on the television, on the news, is they're saying that, well, you really can't tell if you have the coronavirus or not unless you take this test. Okay? That's the way to tell if you got the corona or if you just got a cold. You know, you take this test. All right? But then I'm looking at the television and I'm reading the newspaper and they're telling me that, well, hold on. They really don't have enough tests, the test kits to send out so that everybody that needs to be tested can get tested. Wait a minute, what? Right. So even if you think you might have the coronavirus, you can't just walk into your doctor's office and get a test. And guess what else? They don't even have a cure for the coronavirus. So you can get tested for it if you're lucky enough to get a test. But they're trying to develop, you see, and I'm looking at the people all over the world from the World Health Organization saying that they are trying to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus, but it's going to take months for them to test the vaccine, so it could be a year or more before the vaccine is actually ready to be released. See, so I ain't worried about right now what happened with them Egyptians thousands of years ago. I'm looking at today. See, and I could throw my hands up in the air and say, well, hold on, God. What's up with this? I'm not doing nobody no wrong. How you got me out here now about to get some corona? And I ain't talking about a beer. Try to get a corona. If it was a beer, that'd be all right. Give me a lime, just kick back, sit on the beach, have me a corona. But no, now you got something else for me to think about. A coronavirus, as if I didn't have enough on my mind. Now I got to think about corona. But let me share something with your viewers. The same way that I can look back now, look back thousands of years ago, and see that the universe, that nature, that God Almighty had a plan for the Egyptians, had a plan for the Hebrews, had a plan for, and when I say the Egyptians, for those of you that know your geography, the Egyptians were Africans. The Egyptians are Africans. That thousands of years ago, God had a plan for the Babylonians, and God's plan over thousands of years unfolded. And because I know that, yes, I'm judging what happened back in them days, I'm judging and I'm saying that was wrong. I'm judging that. But then God gives me peace in knowing that everything happens according to God's plan. Everything happens. We're all working together according to God's plan. Yes, even the little bacteria, even little viruses, even those sunspots, everything is working together according to a divine plan. And that gives me peace. And it gives me peace because, look, I don't know if I'm going to catch any corona. I don't know that. But I know that if it's part of God's plan for me to catch corona, I'm going to catch it. And if it's not part of God's plan for me to catch corona, I won't catch it. And because I know that, that gives me peace. I ain't got to walk around worrying about if I'm going to catch it or not. Peace. Peace in knowing that God has a master plan for all time and all creation. Peace in knowing that God's plan is going to be fulfilled. Peace in knowing that, guess what? Peace in knowing that I am indeed a part of God. I share this knowledge with you. I share this message with you that indeed God is almighty. And I share it with you in the hopes that that knowledge, knowing that God is almighty, my prayer is that knowing that God is almighty, no matter whatever you have to go through in this upcoming week, no matter how many TV shows you see talking about coronavirus, no matter whatever you have to go through in this upcoming week, that God Almighty blesses you and yours with peace.